What is 15 years?
15 years ago, there was no iWatch, no iPhone. There is very little anything.
The first stamp to ever feature a living Indigenous Australian, Kathy Freeman, was about to be printed.
Sydney was gearing up for the 2000 Olympics.
And the Y2K bug was still an issue.
15 years ago, Australia appeared before the United Nations Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination.
And was criticised for the government's inadequate response to the recommendations from the Bringing Them Home report.
15 years ago, Corroboree 2000 was held at the Sydney Opera House, marking 10 years of work on reconciliation.
No state had recognised the service and sacrifice of Indigenous servicemen.
15 years ago, over 300,000 people took part in the People's Walk for Reconciliation over the Sydney Harbour Bridge.
15 years ago, no Indigenous woman had been elected to Parliament.
15 years ago, the Aboriginal Tent Embassy was set up in Sydney to attract world media attention to Australian Indigenous issues.
The stolen generation had yet to receive any compensation.
The nation had not said sorry.
And Noel Pearson's thesis, Our Right to Take Responsibility, articulated the existence of passive welfare in Indigenous communities.
And the need to create a real economy.
And 15 years ago, Indigenous Enterprise Partnerships, now Jawun, was born.
In 15 years, Jawun has become stronger and smarter.
NPY Women's Council has got really smart.
We work collegially together. It has benefited all of our members in the community.
These secondaries help our people in the community.
To organisations like Warringati, Jawun brings an expertise that otherwise we wouldn't have.
They generally want to help and support us.
Jawun's assisted Nurrumbuk to transition to the modern economy.
The ability to be more professional in the way we achieve outcomes for our people.
The role that Jawun has played over the years has been very important to our community development.
In some instances, they've delivered whole project for me myself.
What Jawun's been able to do is help us accelerate the Cape York agenda in Cape York.
We want that total independence, and that's what has been good for us with Jawun.
They're ideas that come from the ground, they're locally designed ideas, and they're ideas that can lead reform in extraordinary ways.
And it's great to see that, you know, there's all these different layers coming together as one to really create change for the future of our Aboriginal people.
And they became real close family to me, the Jawun people.
So the next 15 years, what's possible?
In 15 years, I see the Emerging Leaders program growing stronger in our communities. Here in Arnhem Land, I see our future leaders looking after our community, looking after our people.
In 15 years' time, I'd like to think that we've reached agreement with the Australian people about the future of Indigenous Australia, and that we've built the Indigenous knowledge integrated into the education system of Australian society, and that underpins our economic aspirations and our inclusion in Australian society.
15 years from now, I would like to see affordable housing on the block, and that our elders that we care for here in Wyong and indeed right across this country have the life expectancy as all other Australians, and that they have a quality of life in proper homes.
This is a marathon, not a sprint, and we recognise that real change will take, in some cases, a generation. I see the East Kimberley communities being stronger, smarter, and living a lot better lifestyle than we do today.
If we look 15 years ahead, you know, about the investment Jawun and our secondees put in right now, I see a large business, and I see a large tourism business and potentially a maritime business. Not just that, but I see a lot of kids in this area who think about business because of the new language that's been spoken.
My aspirations in 15 years is that people of Cape York have the capabilities and the capacity to govern our own futures and create our own innovation.
I see our families living in a safe environment, and I see our people accessing the local economy, local employment, and our kids having a great education.
I see communities having capability, capacity, communities having a strong economic focus and being able to provide real opportunities and real benefits for their people.
I like to see a lot of things happening in North East Arnhem Land for our children and their children. To see our children being educated, see our children going to our university, and see our children become as doctors and educators and leaders.
In 15 years, We will be at the table in major developments, making decisions about our lives, our improvement for our children, our future generation in education, employment, business.
Two nations coexisting side by side. The Indigenous nation living out and experiencing self-determination in a way that's ordinary and true, with non-Aboriginal people grateful that they've stayed the course to enable Indigenous Australia to reach this point, and Jawun continuing in its critical and practical role, providing direct support to Aboriginal organisations enabling this new future.
In 15 years,
if we do nothing different, nothing will change.
But Jawun is not about standing still.
15 years has taught us that.
We're going to take a fair place in this our own country, a fair place in the economy, a fair place in this very privileged country, and we're going to make a fair contribution to this country. Strong Indigenous leadership and strong Indigenous organisations, a strengthening of our Indigenous capacity to take charge of our problems and to seize our opportunities.